Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today's episode is going to be entirely in 3D. Now if you are a subscriber to the channel, don't worry, I'm not making this a regular thing. However, I uploaded my review of the 3D FPV Bosbam system a few videos back and the response was pretty good, so I thought I would share a bit of a passion of mine, which is 3D. Now you will have noticed that I have uploaded this video twice, and that is because YouTube doesn't deal with 3D very well. It used to, when they used a flash player, used to be able to even plug your 3D TV into it and have all sorts of different options there and watch YouTube videos in 3D. However, they have since moved to the HTML5 player, and since then they removed all of the 3D options and they have started to bring them back. Sadly though, we only have the option to use the red and blue glasses or view in 2D, so that's another reason why I'm uploading this twice, and that is because if you are just interested in how to do this and are not too bothered about watching it in 3D, you can watch it in 2D as well. So what I realized when I uploaded the Bosbam video is that a lot of people wanted to view the 3D with VR goggles, and there's no option in YouTube to do that. So that's the other reason why I am uploading this in two formats. So one is a side-by-side format in full, so that will be for your VR goggle, and the other is in what they call a side-by-side half, and that is what YouTube recognizes as 3D. So it's quite simple how to view this video. If you have some of the VR goggles, then all you have to do is put your phone into them and watch the VR video, and you are ready to go because the screen is already split in half. So I use these VR goggles here. Quite a cheap pair of goggles and they work really well, so I just put my phone in here, and where the screen splits you just have to make sure that it goes along this line in the goggle here, and then you play the video and you get full 3D in color, which I think is brilliant. And I think this is why it's becoming a popular way to view 3D, because these are really cheap and they're pretty good as well. I'll put a link in the description to my favorite VR goggles. And of course you can watch the other video with a pair of these, which are the blue and red glasses. You can get them really cheap and a lot of people have them. You know, a lot of sort of kids books and DVDs come with them. So the other video you'll be able to use these, but also there is a little icon at the bottom right of the screen that says 3D, and it'll allow you to switch to 2D if you wish to do that, because I am going to show how I'm doing this. So let's get back to the 3D. So this is my ZMR250 and hopefully this should be coming to you in 3D. Now the reason that I've used the ZMR as the platform is that I'm using two Mobius cameras, and the reason I'm using two Mobius cameras is that they sit together really nicely, and this is all that you need for 3D. You just need two cameras that are exactly the same, they've got exactly the same settings, and if you can sit them together like that and also get them level, then this is going to work. You're just mimicking eyes basically. So this is your left eye and this is your right eye, and then you put them together in software in various different formats, and then it's in 3D. So what I wanted to do originally was to take two of these Foxeer Legend cameras and put them side by side, and I could have done it by making a mount for it, but you could see there that the side of the cameras is rounded, so they don't fit together with a band around it, whereas the Mobius does. It fits perfectly on this platform. And this is the other reason why I'm using the ZMR, not one of my other builds, is it has a vibration dampened mount. Now Mobius cameras are susceptible to vibrations, so I have mounted it on here, just a couple of cable ties around the camera and also some rubber bands as well to make sure that they're extra secure, and then we have got a cable tie around the back here as well in case all of this comes loose. but it's working really well. Now you might be wondering how I'm filming this. And what I'm doing is I've got two Yi cameras, and again they have square sides and they just fit together like that, and I'm just pressing record at the same time. That's all that you need to do. Now when GoPro originally came up with their 3D system, they linked them together, so one button, press both of them. And this is the tricky bit really, but not really tricky. All that you have to do is turn both of the cameras on, and that'll just take a second or so, and the same with the Yi as well. Now they have these lights on them, and what I do is press the record button at the same time, and you can see they start flashing in sequence. It's not difficult to do at all, but what I just do in case that didn't sync up correctly is I just clap like this, and that will allow me to sync up the audio in the editor, because both of these cameras will have exactly the same audio. And what I do is I sync up the audio channels rather than the picture, because that's easier. You can physically see the audio spikes go up and down and you can match them perfect. However, both of these lights flashing at the same time, both of these lights flashing at the same time, there should be no need for that. So what I will do next is I will take you into the video editor and show you how I'm going to match all of this up, and then of course I will show you the onboard footage, because it is something. Now you may notice that I don't have an angle on this camera at all, and this is something that I have learnt, and that is, if you have the camera angled upwards and fly fast, then the 3D experience isn't really that much fun. 3D is all about things that are close to the camera, so if you just fly fast and with a lot of height, then nothing's going to be in 3D. It's just like when you look into the distance and you can see the background just isn't in 3D, but things that are up close to you are. So that is why I have got the cameras flat, so that I can fly nice and slow up to objects such as trees and things, and hopefully get some nice 3D. So the next thing to do is to go into the video editor. Now I'm using Sony Vegas, however you don't need to use something that expensive, especially if you are just interested in formatting it for VR goggles, because all that you need to do is take both of these images and just resize them down next to each other and you're done. However, if you want more advanced 3D options, like uploading it to YouTube in 3D, for example, then you're going to need something like Sony Vegas Pro, which is what I'm going to use. So let's get onto the computer. So here we are in Sony Vegas Pro 13. I have already copied the left and right video files to the computer and then dragged them into Sony Vegas. I have named the files left and right so I don't get them mixed up. Usually I label my SD cards Allen R again so I don't get them mixed up. So the first thing we need to do is set up the project for 3D, and it's very easy. If we go into properties here where it says stereoscopic 3D mode, it's currently off. I've also set up the project to be 1920 by 1080p. However, when we drag the files in, it should automatically change that to the correct format. So in here we've got our various outputs for 3D. Now if you want to use YouTube's current 3D system, you want to export in side-by-side half, and if you want to export for VR goggles, then you want side-by-side full. Now check the date of this video, because YouTube are always changing the way that they do 3D. In fact, I subscribe to many 3D channels, and they always complain about the fact that they're having to re-upload their videos for the new format, which I think is an absolute shame. So hopefully one of these two formats will get picked, and I hope that to be either side-by-side half or side-by-side full, and I'll show you what the differences is. You can also view this in the red and cyan option as well. I'm actually going to do that to show you first of all, so let's select that and then click apply, and OK. So now we need to drag our left and right footage in, so I'm going to drag the left one in first, and you see that it's going to change the project settings to the media. Now if you know that your right clip is synced fine, then you don't need to do this next bit, but what I'm going to do is drag the right side in, and you can see there we've got both of the audio files there, and what I tend to do is zoom in and check that they both match up perfectly, and in this case they do. But of course, if they didn't, what you could do is just move them along to match each other and get them really accurate. Of course, if your camera doesn't have a microphone on it, it's more difficult to do that, and the Boscam system doesn't have a microphone, so I had to line it up using the images, and that was much harder, which is why it didn't come out as well as I could see it through the goggles. However, this HD footage will. So what I'm going to do is just undo that, because I know that I don't need both of the audios. They only need one audio. I'm going to right click on the right footage and then drag it down. It'll give me some options for video only, and then add video across time. You can see there that we've now just got the video track. So now what I'm going to do is select both of these files using the control button on the keyboard, right click and select pair as stereoscopic 3D subclip. Now what I'm going to do is just mute the audio on this one because it's going to be quite loud otherwise, but you can see now our preview is with the red and blue format, and this footage is looking really, really good. And of course then you can edit stuff out, so I don't want this bit, so you can press S and that will automatically just cut that bit of the video, and you can slide it along. And if I could just go over here to the end of the flight, I can just press S again and cut it off. Now let me just show you those other formats quickly, and also how to save them as well. So if I export it like this, it's going to save this red and blue format, but if I go to properties here and then change it to side-by-side half, this is how YouTube likes to have it. So if I press OK, this will now change and both of the images are side-by-side, but you can see there that they're squished, and then YouTube changes the aspect ratio when it converts it to 3D. Of course, that's no good for VR, because if we put our phone into VR goggles like this, the aspect ratio is going to be all wrong. So what we need to do is go into properties and then select side by side full and then apply, and then both of the images are in the right aspect ratio. Of course, the bigger the phone screen you have, the better, because this is going to have black lines at the top and bottom. However, I found with my 5.5-inch phone, which a lot of phones are these days, and the VR goggles that I'm using, the picture is fantastic. Much bigger than Fat Shark's, I would say, probably about 60 to 70 degrees field of view, which is quite nice. So I need to save that now. Now I'm not going to go through how to put in fades and things like that, because this would make the video too long, but if I go into File here and then do Render As, and then you can choose your various different formats here. So I tend to use this one, which is an MP4 format. It saves in 50 megabits, so you're not going to lose any quality if you want to reprocess it afterwards. Got 1080p here and a frame rate of 29.97, which closely matches the 30 frames per second of the Mobius. You're going to want to change where it's saving to. It's going to be a big file, this one, and then change the name and then render, and you are good to go. We should have some nice 3D footage. So what I'm going to do next is give you some nice side-by-side footage of the Boscam flight that I did with their 3D FPV setup, and then I'm going to show you the results of this Mobius cam, because I think it's absolutely fantastic. So let's go and take a look at that. So here is the DVR footage. This is actually a different flight to the previous video. I managed to sync up the DVRs a little bit better on this one, but there is still some slight syncing issues. So if you watched the previous video, you will know that I used two DVRs to capture each one of the transmissions. So the way that the Boscam system works is that it has two video transmitters on board, and it transmits each one of the cameras at a slightly different frequency. So I used two DVRs on the ground to record each of those, but sadly the DVRs record at a slightly different frame rate. It's a variable frame rate, I believe, and bit rate as well. So that made it really difficult to sync up the video. And as well, there's no audio on board this camera. It doesn't transmit any audio, so really difficult to sync the videos up anyways, because I don't have anything to reference it, so I had to frame by frame match them up, and of course they didn't match up as I go through the video, so I had to speed up and slow down the video in particular places to get a decent idea of what I was looking at. However, it still looked better through the 3D goggles that I was using, but this will definitely give you a good idea of what the system looks like, and I will link the system in the below because I think it's a really good system. However, I'm more excited to show you the Mobius footage because the Mobius has the same firmware on both of the cameras, it has the same settings, and it records exactly the same. So even if you aren't able to press the record button at the same time, which is fairly easy anyways, you can link up the audio file and get a perfect sync between the left and right image. Anyways, I'm just flying about here just with the Boscam, but I am now going to switch to the Mobius footage, which is in 1080p, so higher definition, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So there you go, that is my video on how to make 3D video in HD and also for your FPV camera as well. I hope you enjoyed this 3D episode. If you did, I might do some more on it, but what I'm going to do is leave you with some of this awesome flight footage, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.